Alright, so this is another accompaniment, Amanda Engeline. She knew what questions I was asking. She knew where they were leading. It's not difficult to figure it out. She had statements that she wanted to make. So she made sure that instead of answering my questions, she filled up as much space as she could trying to bash me. She basically sidestepped every question that I had. Now, the questions that I had a bunch of them. Most of them are pretty simple questions. But I didn't get that far, because she was too busy doing what it is that I told her if she answered my questions, that at the end of it, that she'd get to make her statements. Well, she was too busy making statements to answer my questions. Now, there's some stuff that went on up there that's pretty fucked up. Now, as far as the laundry goes, I washed my laundry every 3 days. I had 2 sets of clothes. This right here is the little USB thing that she bought. The thing is, I shouldn't have needed Amanda's help. I shouldn't have needed Lana's help. Especially the way that Lana is. She's a very controlling person. It's do what Lana wants, or she will throw a tantrum like a 5-year-old. Where have we heard that before? Oh yeah, people saying that about me. I'm not throwing a tantrum, I'm fucking freaking out. What Lana, Amanda, and Miss Jerry did while I was in Chesapeake, Virginia was pretty fucked up. And it was over a racist post. But I needed their help. They lied to me outright on multiple occasions. They also brought up things that I admitted to. Now, one thing that's important to note is that during that conversation, Amanda admits to distribution of marijuana. So she wanted to be pissed off at me about saying that they were selling it. But she admitted to distribution of it. I don't have a medical marijuana license in the state of Nebraska, or the state of Colorado, or the state of Wyoming, or the state of Montana. Matter of fact, I don't have one in any state. So, for her to distribute marijuana to me is a felony. That's the problem with Amanda, is that she's not too bright. They were not supportive. Amanda, she tried to be while I was up there, but it's not Amanda's place, it's her mom's place. So her mom gets to make the rules, and Amanda gets to follow. Now, the rules are different for them than they are for me. But also, they already have everything set up. And in their heads, mind you that Lana has never been actually homeless. She doesn't know the first goddamn thing about homelessness. And every time that she needed help, she got a bailout. You know what a bailout is, right? That means somebody like myself, or her mother, or her daughter, or Miss Jerry came to bail her ass out of the situation. For me, I've been bailed out of a few situations. But we're not talking about bail like in jail. I've only been bailed out of jail once. Every other time, I just had to sit over complete bullshit. When you lock up somebody for being impoverished, and you prevent them from having access to evidence, they say it's for other people's safety. It's not for other people's safety. It's so that you're easier to railroad. You don't even have access to the slander that people speak out against you. When I was in court in Arapahoe County, My public pretender's name was Jennifer, or, not Jennifer, well, her last name was Cardi, Pamela Cardi. And I got to read just a little bit of the slander by these people. Just a little bit. From this woman named Kara Miles, a.k.a. Kara Johnson, a.k.a. Adam Klein, if you believe what Aaron Cockerham has to say. But that's the point, is that the police should have done their jobs. I shouldn't have had to deal with 400 wingnuts on the internet. Now, I'm not saying that Aaron's a wingnut. What I'm saying is that I had to deal with a lot of wingnuts. A lot of people saw the threats and harassment, but the police didn't want to see that. They didn't care. They wanted to justify the assault against me by Officer Lolatai. They wanted to justify their decisions, their immoral and illegal decisions, by calling me mentally ill and pretending like these things weren't happening. Now, Aaron Cockerham is aware that I didn't hallucinate those things. Shelley is aware that I did not hallucinate those things. These are not video or audio hallucinations. That's why I started recording the phone calls. Now, I would have liked to record all of my phone calls, but I didn't have the ability. Now I do, sort of. I have to use one phone to record on the other. And people who said that they would come forward and just never did get pissed off at me because I recorded our phone calls. Well, they should have made a report like they said they would. As far as Karamia goes, I recorded that phone call between her and I, and there's a lot more that I would have liked to have go through there. But she did the same thing that a lot of people did. She had somebody else call me up to be an asshole. I don't know who this guy is that she had call me, but he tried using a very threatening tone. Karamia, whoever that dude is, he's a bitch. Straight up, he is a bitch. You should not have had someone call me and treat me as if I'm not a human being. You don't like the drama? Neither do I. I didn't want any of this fucking drama. I wanted to be left the fuck alone when I left Virginia. But because of people like you, and people like Kara Miles, people like Layla Johnson, people who are fucking drama hounds who get off on death, you created more drama than I ever could. But I'm not going to stop speaking out. You don't get to have a dude call me up with a threatening tone to be an asshole. That just doesn't work for me. You should have come forward, Kara, whatever. Now, she's in Colorado. That's great. That's a great place for her to be. I hope she ends up homeless and has to deal with this shit herself. The fact is, I was the one that was harassed by the Bollingers and their friends before fucking Natalie was killed. That's the reason that I needed to get the police to fucking help. Now, I was trying to get a protection order against all of these people. All of these people that I was trying to get a protection order against before Natalie died. I wouldn't have needed to even try that if she'd have just been honest. Now, as far as Lana and Amanda go, the second day I was up there, I wouldn't have sex with Lana. And after that, that kind of set the tone for me getting snapped at every day over fucking the world's stupidest shit. Yes, I'm going to speak out. My words don't matter. And that time that I was on the phone with Amanda yesterday, she made it pretty obvious that nothing that I had to say was important. She had specific rhetoric She had called me with the intent of spouting out, and no matter what, she was going to spout out that rhetoric and avoid the questions. I didn't expect her to be honest, and she wasn't. So, I'm not surprised. I'm not blindsided. The bullshit that they pulled up there was just wrong. Now, there's some stuff that after I left, they tried throwing back in my face, like throwing it in my face made it so that they're right and I'm wrong. Or like they had something they could hold over my head. One of those things, I'm going to tell you the story, although I've already told it. When I said I told all my worst sins on Facebook before Christmas, the Christmas before Natalie was killed, I wasn't kidding. I was trying to rent the house on First Street for my mother. I gave her $200. I think it was more than $200, but I don't know exactly. And it was to rent that place, and she was moved out of it because it had black mold and so on and so forth. And, well, I'm not afraid of black mold. I'm not afraid of any mold, really. So I paid her $200, and I went and laid down. Well, it wasn't but maybe a day later, I suppose. My stepdad, Michael Scott Wade, he came back from wherever he was working as an electrician. And mind you, he hasn't liked me since I was about 6 or 7, because I was in Centennial Peaks Mental Hospital in Boulder County, Colorado, and I told them that Scott molested me when he hadn't. Scott and I have not gotten along since. No matter how much I try, Scott is just a fucking dick. So he got there, and he was pissed off that I was there at the house. Mom didn't bother to tell him that I rented the place, that I had just given her money 2 days prior. Might have been the day prior, I don't know. It was right in there, like right after I gave her the money. So my mom continued to manipulate, and I was pissed off. You can't stay here, Sean. I told you that. No, the fuck you didn't. Stop fucking playing games because Scott's here. Because Scott pays Mom's stuff. Mom doesn't do shit. So, it was a very pissed off situation for me. And I broke a bunch of glass. Why did I break that glass? Because I was lied to and stolen from. So, when I left Lana and Amanda's up there, that's something that they brought up. As if it was something they could hold over my head when it was something that I had already admitted to. I had been to court over that. I had pled guilty to that because I was guilty. I broke a lot of glass in my mom's house. Did I break the windows? No. I went straight for her pride and joy. I went straight for what would hurt her the way that she hurt me. I went for the stuff in her china hutch. Do I feel bad about breaking that shit? Fuck no. People are more important than shit, woman. People are more important than things. I gotta tell you, if I had a $500,000 Stradivarius violin, and it was a choice between that violin and a human life, I don't care whose life it is, it's more important than that fucking violin. It's definitely more important than a $50 set of china dishes. And I do mean a $50 set. It's cheap shit that got bought at Walmart. And yeah, I broke the fuck out of that stuff. Why don't I feel bad for breaking all that stuff? Well, because it was years ago and I fucking admitted it. And there was an intent and purpose in it. And after I broke all that stuff, you know what I did? I didn't have a phone at the time, so I walked over to Pump and Pantry and I used their phone. And I called 911 and had the police come and get me. So, when Lana and Amanda were doing all their bullshit, they're like, oh, well, we only did things the way that we did it because of your history of breaking people's things. Well, you got to understand why I break people's things. Exactly because of what you just did. Stealing my shit and fucking lying to me. Don't steal my shit and don't fucking lie to me. Amanda didn't want to answer my questions because she knew what questions I was going to ask and where they were going, and she didn't want to admit to that shit. Understandably. Court of public opinion, right? I believe in doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do. But I don't always know the right thing to do. When Lana and Amanda blindsided me like that and stole my evidence, I didn't know what to do. But I did know I can speak out. I will always have the ability to speak out. Even if I'm in a room by myself, I can still speak out. She wanted to pull some bullshit about how unicorns aren't real. So, me, never having ever seen a unicorn in my lifetime, I said unicorns are real. Do I believe that? No. I don't give a fuck about unicorns. I care about human beings, and I care about animals. Things are not important. Inanimate objects do not matter. However, some inanimate objects save lives. Some inanimate objects can change things for the better, depending on how they're used. Let's take a firearm, for example. If you need to eat, and there's not a lot of roughage around there, well, you might need to get some meat. You can use a firearm to go shoot yourself some dinner, and you can eat. However, that very same firearm can be used to shoot your neighbor because you don't like that his cabbage is growing on your side of the fence. And yes, that actually happened. Not to me, but that has actually happened. People have killed each other over the most stupid things. Now, we keep Americans in a constant state of paranoia of what could happen using the news. Now, what actually happens to people every single day, we tend to avoid. There's about a 99% chance that as a homeless person, you're going to be victimized by the public and the police. But there's about a 1 in 30 million chance that you will have to... Well, alright, it's not that big. It's not a 1 in 30 million chance. But there's a very, very small chance that you will have to deal with terrorism in your lifetime. There is a small chance, tiny, minuscule by comparison, that you will have a suicide bomber walk into your school and blow himself up. Or walk into your school with a firearm and shoot the place up. People do desperate things. They really do. Shooting kids is a desperation. It is. It's an act of desperation. Those kids deserve a decent life. They're not going to have a decent life if they're dead, but they're also not going to have a decent life if you don't do something to change it. Instead of complaining about school shooters, why don't you help to alleviate the situation so we don't have them? We got a lot of officers getting shot these day and age. Why are those officers getting shot? Because they're fucking bullies. And the sad fact is, just like with the homeless, that police officer who got shot was probably not the one who did that person wrong. When people victimize the homeless didn't do anything to them. Are you fucking stupid? The people who did these things to them are above the law. When I say above the law, I mean higher on the social ladder, so they matter more, they are more important, they have more money, they have better lawyers, and the cops listen to them more than they're going to listen to you, because those people are more human than you are because of their financial status. So, they can't go after somebody who's higher up on the ladder, so they come after you as a homeless person. When somebody decides they're going to go kill a police officer because they're that hateful towards police officers, they're not caring at that point who it is that's wearing a badge. It's anyone with a badge is going to get shot. And then we want to talk about school shooters. Now, we got adults walking into schools and shooting kids. That's pretty messed up. But also, most school shooters are kids themselves. We want to turn the blind eye to them getting bullied. Then when we want to justify how those people were treated, we try to make them out to be the bad guy. Well, they eventually became the bad guy. You don't like how they look. You don't like how they dress. When I was growing up, Columbine was the big thing. That happened while I was in high school. Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris. Me, I thought about shooting up my school for about 2 seconds. It wasn't very long at all. What occurred to me in that time is that the people that I wanted to shoot were very specific. And I actually took the time to think about what was going through these school shooters' minds. See, they had specific people they wanted to shoot. Not necessarily Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris. But the thing is, when you walk into that school, it's not like the 7 people that you want to blow their heads off are all going to line themselves up for you. No, everybody scatters to the 4 winds. They all go hide in their classrooms, and they may not be in the classroom that you expect them to be in. You're freaking out, and you showed up there with an intent and purpose, and it's too late to turn back. So, you start blasting anybody. You might see a few people that you like and let them live. But really, they're shooting people at random because they're freaking out. It didn't line up as they planned. We don't just encounter this in school shootings. The officer that you want to shoot probably isn't going to be the one in the cruiser that pulls up at the stoplight right next to you. I know there's a lot of people that want to put a hole in Officer Steinman. But chances are, if they had access to a firearm and were able to go shoot a police officer, it wouldn't be Steinman who would show up. And chances are pretty good that the police would surround them. They're sitting there trembling in their little fairy boots because they don't actually want to shoot anybody. They got a gun there, and they know they're going to get in trouble because they have that gun. They know those cops are probably going to shoot them. They are probably going to get bashed in the media and bashed by the public. And Officer Steinman is still walking around with a badge harassing and killing homeless people. Yes, Officer Steinman is responsible for multiple deaths of homeless people. Deaths We're not talking about just false arrests or just lying in the courtroom. We are talking about actual fucking murder. Killing people. Shooting someone in the head isn't the only way to kill them. Up in Hardin, Wyoming, you know how they kill them? Exposure. You wait till a blizzard. You drive them out into the country and you drop them off. The blanket laws in Boulder. That's entrapment. And I'll tell you why. You pay taxes so that Boulder County Cares will go out and pass out blankets to the homeless until 10:30. Those blankets become illegal at 10:30. At which point, being in possession of one and using it for its intended purpose will cost you money. And we pay these people from Boulder County Cares, we pay for these blankets to be distributed. Then we pay for the gas for the vehicle. Then we pay for the vehicle itself and the registration and all of that crap. And then we pay police officers and their vehicles and their gas to come hunt you for having that blanket. So that they can charge you $400 and 60 hours of community service for a blanket that you got from Boulder County Cares. Yes, Boulder County Cares. They care about revenue. I'm sick and tired of child molesters getting set free and major drug dealers getting set free because they can afford bail. Meanwhile, we got homeless people sitting in jail over a blanket or a beer. You people in houses, do you drink beer? I know Rihanna's husband loves the shit out of beer. He's in his house, though. He's allowed to drink it. He's also a dickhead. I try to like the guy, but he's a dickhead. He's never been homeless. Well, Amanda, she was homeless for about 2 weeks. Her and her boyfriend, after writing $10,000 worth of bad checks. How much time did Amanda spend in jail for that? They actually dropped the charges against her so that she could go into the military. That guy who was in front of me in court in Larimer County, he molested a child. And he got away with it. He got to walk out of the courtroom because he was in the military. Was he currently serving in the military at that point in time? No. He was out of the military. It was his military service that made it okay that he molested a 6-year-old boy. Amanda, was she in the military when she wrote those $10,000 worth of bad checks? No, she was in the delayed entry program. Meanwhile, the military is not fighting for our rights. Soldiers are not protecting you. Soldiers do not protect you. If they're off shooting people in foreign countries, they're not protecting you. They're not protecting your rights. They're not protecting the Constitution. Here, in the United States of America, where it should matter but doesn't. Somebody's got to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. For me, it's difficult to make the right decisions when I have people constantly lying to me and stealing my shit. I felt bad for taking Dan Favorite's money when I went to Montana. But that money was supposed to help me get resources up there. Supposed to get me help that I didn't get. Going through the motions, but not following through at the end. That's what it all came out to. After all that time, all that money, all that preparation, it all came down to the fact that Lana didn't get laid on the second day that I was there. So she kept on snapping at me at shit that was not important. Like Brad Dollinger's car. Brad is back there, by the way. Those of you who got to see the video when I went to go get my backpack, well, that's Bradley Dollinger. The guy that they had talked so much shit about. Boy, was it surprising for me to see him back there. He was supposed to be in Maryland. They talked about him like he was Satan. But Lana, much like many women that I know who won't admit it, is addicted to sex. While calling men pigs, well, she really only has one use for men. To use them. Men exist for her benefit. While she talks shit about them for the benefits that she wants as well. Men only want one thing. Lana, you want sex too, so don't bash men for wanting sex. That's how we spread our genetic lineage. That's how we end up with children, is through sex. There are people like me who aren't interested in sex. You know why I'm not interested in sex? Because my experiences with sex were not positive. I'm aware of our social issues because I was thrown into them. My dad couldn't stay off the cocaine. My mom couldn't stay off the cocaine. Those were not my decisions. Now, my dad, he was telling me up there in Washington State that he really wasn't messing with cocaine. That there was 70 other people there and that he just happened to get caught up in it all. Well, he's told his story a few different times, a few different ways. And he agreed with me on how the police treat people. How they're not actually the good guys. But then my dad, he's never been homeless. The way that he speaks about the homeless isn't really positive. It shows that he doesn't have any respect for them. They're not human beings to my dad. For years and years, the only times that my dad would talk to me, I called him. He's never once, not even once, called me. The entirety of my adult life. And matter of fact, when I was a child, it was the same thing. He never once called me unless I called him first. Not for my birthday, not for Christmas, not for nothing. He just straight don't give a fuck. It's because he's a selfish man. He should have never had kids. Most of the stuff that I had to say about the police, he agreed with. Pamela Cardi, when they were grooming me to lie in court, I was letting them know exactly how I felt about the situation. And Pamela Cardi kept saying to me, Sean, I agree with you, but if you say that in court, then they're not going to let you do the things that we want you to do. Meanwhile, the things that she had said about the situation ended up not being true. My own public pretender lied to me repeatedly. She tried to put on a good face. I should have saw right through her bullshit, but I needed to get out of that abusive environment. where it's just assumed that you're guilty because you're homeless. While I was in there, most of the people in that jail are homeless on any given day. That's because they don't release the homeless. They don't have the money for bail. And even if you have a history of showing up to every fucking court date, you're homeless and they're going to pull some bullshit. See, they use the fact that I was prevented from going to court dates to prevent me from being able to be released from jail on a PR bond. The issue with that is that I was prevented from going to those court dates through incarceration in Arapahoe County. So the fact that I was in jail was the reason that I was prevented from going to those court dates. And it was my public pretender's job to make sure that those other places knew where I was at. But she didn't. She didn't. Matter of fact, her and two of her bosses, on more than one occasion, came in to intimidate me into making a false report and or admitting to things that I didn't do. Basically, they had threatened me with 1 to 99 years locked up in a mental facility. According to the law, they can do this, by the way. 1 to 99 years locked up in a mental facility if I didn't do what they wanted. This is after I threatened to sue them. I threatened to sue every public pretender that I had. Because they won't do their jobs if you're a homeless person. We complain about how Japan, where 99% of their cases don't go to trial. Well, Arapahoe County isn't much different. 97%. That's because they keep you locked up as a homeless person until you're willing to admit that you did things you did not do. A decent lawyer could have gotten me off on technicalities over all the bullshit that they put me through. It is my public pretender's job if I'm being abused in the jails. It's her job to do something about it, according to the officers in the jail. But according to my public pretender, it's not her job. Maybe these people need to stop and figure out what the fuck their jobs are.